Welcome back to Week 1. I'm Angel Reyes, and this is the AI Augmented Doctoral Dissertation course, delivered through Subthesis, the platform I built for doctoral candidates working alongside AI. In the last video, you built a tool stack. You have logins for a couple of chat LLMs, a couple of research tune tools, a corpus tool, a knowledge graph tool, a reference manager, and the Subthesis Research Assistant as a scaffolding layer. That stack is power. This video is about how to wield that power without losing two things you cannot afford to lose. The first is your standing, your degree, your committee's trust, your reputation. The second, and the one almost nobody is talking about correctly yet in 2026, is your authorship, your legal copyright in your own dissertation. Notice that the title of this video has two halves connected by a parenthetical. The first half is the part everyone expects: integrity, disclosure, the provenance mindset. We are going to walk that pathway carefully, but the parenthetical, the originality trap, is the part that is going to surprise you, because it turns this video from an ethics lecture into something with legal teeth. By the end of this 35 minutes, you will be able to do four things. You will classify any AI-assisted writing scenario on a spectrum from assistance to authorship. You will know what your institution actually requires of you in their own words. You will keep a provenance log that survives any audit, and you will understand why purely AI-generated text is uncopyrightable, what that means for your dissertation, and how to write a personal policy that protects both your integrity and your ownership of the work. Let us begin with two real cases from 2025. Case A, University of X, doctoral program. A PhD candidate was formally expelled after faculty alleged the use of generative AI in advanced doctoral coursework and research writing. The student denied it, sued the university, and lost. A court upheld the expulsion. The student's degree, funding, and academic affiliation are gone. Court observers noted, with some grim humor, that the plaintiff appears to have used ChatGPT to draft portions of their own pro se legal filings. This is documented in our DR9 ethics dossier as Case 3, and it is the precedent that establishes a simple fact in 2026. AI misconduct expulsion is legally defensible. Universities can do this, and the courts will back them. Case B, a composite drawn from different patterns we are now seeing. A candidate finishes a dissertation. The institution does not catch any AI use, perhaps because there was disclosure, perhaps because the use stayed inside policy. The degree is conferred. 6 months later, the candidate submits the first paper derived from Chapter 4 to a target journal. The journal's editorial workflow now runs AI text screening on submissions. Several long passages from the methods and discussion sections come back flagged. The author cannot prove transformative human authorship over those passages because there is no provenance log. The journal rejects. More importantly, when the author tries to transfer copyright as part of the publication agreement, they cannot because there is no copyright in the AI-generated text to transfer. The degree survives. The publication pipeline does not. Two different failures, one root cause. In Case A, the candidate never wrote down what AI did and what they did. In Case B, the candidate never asked, at drafting time, whether the words on the page were legally theirs. The provenance mindset is the single corrective that prevents both. I want you to hold these two failure modes in your head as parallel risks, because they are different problems and they need different defenses. The discovery failure is the one most academic integrity training focuses on. It is the risk that you used AI in a way your institution forbids. You did not disclose it, and you got caught by a detector, by a suspicious advisor, by a sleuth on PubPeer, by a colleague who recognized a turn of phrase. The defense against the discovery failure is disclosure and policy alignment. You read your institution's rules, you align your behavior to them, you disclose what you used, and the discovery failure goes away. The ownership failure is different, and almost no doctoral training touches it. It is the risk that you used AI inside the rules disclosed, policy compliant, ethically sound, and yet the text you produced cannot be claimed as yours under United States copyright law. The defense against the ownership failure is not disclosure. Disclosure does not give you copyright back. The defense is transformative human authorship, captured in a way you can demonstrate. You can fail one without the other. The Minnesota student failed the discovery test. The Case B candidate passed the discovery test and failed the ownership test. And here is the bitter part in the long arc of a scholarly career. The ownership failure costs more because it follows you into every publication, every book contract, every grant. The discovery failure ends the degree. The ownership failure ends the career that was supposed to begin with the degree. This video gives you the defense for both, and the defenses turn out to share a single piece of equipment, which is a provenance log. Before we go any further, I want to reframe the question that almost everyone walks into this conversation holding. The wrong question is, how do I hide my AI use? That is the question of a candidate who already knows they have crossed a line and is looking for cover. We are not going to answer that question because the answer is you cannot, and even if you could, you should not. The slightly less wrong question is, how much AI is too much? That question sounds reasonable, but it is unanswerable in the abstract because the answer depends on your institution, your committee, your discipline, your data type, your funder, and the specific task. There is no universal threshold. The right question, the one we are going to spend the next half hour answering together, is this: what part of this work is unambiguously mine? That question forces you to look at every paragraph, every claim, every figure caption, and identify the human cognitive contribution. It forces you to be able to say, of any sentence in your dissertation, here is what I brought to it that the model could not have brought without me. And once you can answer that question paragraph by paragraph, two beautiful things happen. The integrity problem dissolves because there is nothing to hide, and the ownership problem dissolves because the transformative human contribution is what United States copyright law is looking for. The reframe is simple enough to fit on the slide. AI processes information. You make claims. AI surfaces patterns. You decide what they mean. AI drafts language. You transform it through judgment that is yours, copyrightable, and defensible. Hold that reframe. Everything that follows in this video is downstream of it. Here are 6 scenarios. The first question you ask of any AI-assisted writing moment is which zone of a 3-part spectrum it sits in: pure assistance, disclose and proceed, or AI authorship. Pause the video at the end of this slide if you need to and walk each scenario through the question. Scenario 1. You wrote a paragraph. You asked Claude to fix the grammar. The pathway here is short, that is, pure assistance, analogous to running spell check or handing a draft to a writing center tutor for line edits. Disclose it lightly if your institution requires it, otherwise it sits in the same bucket as Grammarly. Scenario 2. You ask Claude to summarize 3 papers and then paraphrase the summary into your literature review. The next step in the pathway is to ask, who made the synthesis? You did not read the papers. The synthesis came from the model. Even if you rewrite the sentences, the intellectual move, what these papers collectively say is the model's move, not yours. Disclose, and frankly, go read the papers. Scenario 3. You paste your hypothesis and ask Claude to write the introduction. The pathway answer is unambiguous, that is AI authorship. The framing, the rhetorical moves, the citations, the argumentation, all of it came from the model. Whatever appears on the page is uncopyrightable by you, regardless of cosmetic editing. Scenario 4. You ask Claude to critique your methods section, and you rewrite based on the critique. This is assistance, leaning toward disclose and proceed, depending on how much of the critique you adopted verbatim. The candidate's move here is to treat the critique like a reviewer comment from a colleague. Scenario 5. You ask Claude to generate citations for a claim you already made. This is a trap. AI systems hallucinate citations. Confidently verify every reference yourself every time by clicking through to the actual source. The right pathway is to find citations yourself first, then ask Claude only to format them. Scenario 6. You ask Claude to write a discussion section that argues a specific thesis. That is the deepest end of authorship, and the part of your dissertation least likely to survive both the ownership and the discovery tests. The 6 scenarios are not arbitrary. They map onto 3 zones that almost every reasonable doctoral committee across every track this course covers, math, STEM, biology, public health, converges on. The assistance zone is uncontroversial. Grammar correction, spell check, citation formatting, light copy edits at the sentence level. Almost no institution has ever sanctioned a candidate for these uses, and almost no committee considers them disclosable in any heavy way. They are the doctoral equivalent of using a calculator. The disclose and proceed zone is where the interesting choices live. Summarization of papers you read, brainstorming of research questions, critique of drafts you wrote, structural suggestions for an argument you are building. These uses are usually permitted, almost always disclosable, and they reward a candidate who can show through a provenance log what the model contributed and what they themselves contributed. The authorship zone is where careers end. Generated argumentation, generated framing, ghost drafted sections, AI writing the contribution claim of the dissertation. These uses are typically forbidden, and they are exactly the uses for which the originality trap closes hardest, because they are also the uses that produce uncopyrightable text. Where you personally draw the line between the middle and the bottom zone, that is the central decision your personal AI policy is going to make in the last segment of this video. There is no single right answer. A math student writing a proof has a different line than a public health student writing a discussion of policy implications. But every candidate